Hi there, welcome back to the DevOl. This today is our third stream where we are doing some Fable and some Elmish. And again, today I have here Zaid with me, so I'm just switching so that you can see him. Hi there, Zaid.
Hi there,
How are you
Roman.
doing?
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, of course, you do all the work. So yeah, today we are going to build some Elmish application. We are going to do a to-do list application.
Yes.
So first of all, sorry if I'm missing words or if I can't remember anything. I'm a bit tired. My two children had their 5th birthday last week. So,
Congrats.
yeah, thanks. And it's still total chaos here, and we had a lot like treasure hunt and everything. And it's still it's only this part of the room that is actually clean. so I have still it's like everything here. It's like here a pilot bracelet and a magic wand. And of course, some Paw Patrol toys like a flying bicycle
Sounds like a
thing.
fun party.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some fun.
Cool.
But so for everyone who's watching, feel free to ask questions. I think we are again like 10 to 15 minutes behind the stream, or the stream is behind us. So if we are not really fast or responsive in answering those questions, bear with us. I have the chat open here. I think Zaid as well. So
Yes.
we will just go for it.
Yeah.
So you said we are going to build a to-do application, and I'm going to switch to my screen here. And as you can see, I have this nice GIF open, which is the Elmish to-do list. And
Yes,
this
is it.
or something similar is what we're actually going to build. I'm not sure how far we will come today.
Yeah, we
I
will
think
try
we'll aim.
to bring this to life from scratch, kind of
Yes.
from scratch, and
Yes.
see where we go.
Yes. So yeah, let's see. We'll aim for an hour again,
Yeah.
an hour 15 minutes, like the last two episodes. So thanks again, everyone who was watching. We have about like 500 views for both of those live streams or the videos afterwards. So really nice.
Not bad.
Yes, definitely. So let's start. Where do we start? Zaid.
All right, so we're just like the last two times where we're getting started with the Elmish architecture. The first stream we had, we went a little bit through Fable, what Fable is and stuff. Then in the second, we went through our Elmish application, the very first one with the counter. And now we're moving forward to building something a bit more complex, like a to-do list application. So when we start with this, I don't want to start from the very scratch. I want to start with a template where we have a couple of libraries installed and have the basic structure, the very simple basic structure up and running. So
Yeah.
we start with a template that is in my repo called Elmish Getting Started.
Let's just look for it. I had the link, but it's gone. I don't know why. Elmish Getting
It's in
Started.
Skype. That's okay.
It's that one, right?
It is this one indeed. So this is the very simple template. It's not the full Elmish template. So if you want to get started, this is just to learn the thing and not build an actual application, because an actual application has a lot more features to it. This is more of a, if you want to just try it out, see how it works, to learn a little bit. This is where this is a good example where you can get started. So basically we can clone this locally and start with that.
Okay, let's do this. So we are here. I say git clone. Elmish Getting Started.
Yes.
If there are any problems, again, just write into the chat if you can't hear us or something. I hope you can. So, okay, now we have took this. We go here, Elmish Getting Started, and we open VS Code.
Yeah.
In here. Cool. Right. So should we install anything? What is in the Webpack? What is in the package JSON?
Yeah, so we start with looking at the package JSON. As you can see, it has a bunch of development dependencies, including the Fable compiler itself and the Webpack tools.
Yes.
But also as normal dependencies, we have React and React DOM. So we start with installing these packages using npm install inside the root directory of this template.
Cool. Just another like precursor thing. If it looks a bit strange what we're doing here, this is the first time that we're actually sharing mouse and keyboard. So
Yes.
It might be that both of us are actually doing something at the same time, and then things won't work as expected. So we say yarn install here?
npm install.
Oh.
I'm using the very default stuff, and I think npm is doing pretty good these days. I mean, it's fast, and it has this thing where we can audit the old packages, which is not yet supported by Yarn. So I'm just sticking with npm for now.
Okay, this takes some time because it seems...
This takes a little bit while. We can look at source in the meanwhile.
Yes, have a look at...
So inside the source directory, we have basically the full project, which is just one file basically, and the project file, which includes app.fs, which includes...
this is basically the counter.
This is basically the counter, yeah. So it looks like the one we built from last time, but just a little bit different with the render function. It's called render instead of view, state instead of model, just to confuse you even better if you weren't confused the last time. And the update is pretty much the same, and the render renders two buttons and an H1 for the count.
Okay, cool.
So these things are pretty straightforward. I think if you have seen the last stream,
yeah,
if you haven't, you definitely should.
Yeah, definitely. But I think the big difference is this thing here, right? So when you have a look at the app.fs project file, we have this new library here called Feliz.
Yes.
Which is happy in Spanish.
Which means happy indeed.
And so this is another library that you were doing, and don't use the mouse.
I've been working on it for the last couple of weeks.
And we had some discussions on Twitter about this, and off Twitter and everywhere. So just give us a quick intro. Why you built Feliz? What is it? What it is, and how we can use it.
All right. So if you had seen the last stream, we've been using basically the default React renderer, the default React helpers and functions to build the user interface, which is kind of okay. You have the syntax where every element takes two arrays, one for the properties of the elements and one for the children. But this syntax, I don't know if you can...
Yeah, go. I just want to go to the Fable getting started to show people what you were actually talking about.
All right. So it basically looked like this, and it's okay, but the syntax can be really, really confusing when the things get bigger. And every time you start with a snippet, depending on how many attributes you have or how many children you have, people will change the syntax.
Yes.
So some people will, I have just two attributes, and I will put them in the same line. Oh, now I have another attribute. I'll break it into more lines, and then you start having pretty much a inconsistency everywhere, because every part of the application has somewhat more children or somewhat more attributes, and I didn't really like it. So I wanted something that has consistent formatting, that I don't have to think about basically how I don't have to think about the formatting. I can just get started with it. And one thing that I didn't like from the old DSL is that a lot of these properties, they're implemented as cases of discriminated unions. So
those ones here.
Yeah, so the attributes are discriminated unions, cases of one giant discriminated union called the props. One problem with it is that you cannot overload it. So a lot of times these properties can have different types of values, and if you want to change the types, you have to do it. You have to convert manually from either if it takes an integer. Sometimes it takes a string, and you have to convert back and forth instead.
So we lose a lot of the nice type safety that F# is actually giving us. So
Yeah, they are kind of type safe because you can type on click and you cannot miss the on click. But sometimes, especially with the styling, the styles have they're basically a big mess.
Yes.
Trying to
Some need some floats,
cover
some need some different strings and something like this, right?
Exactly. Even things like the H1 here, as you can see, if you have a simple element like H1 and you only want to put some content in it, like model.count, you have to have the whole syntax, an empty array, and have to convert the count to an integer to make it a proper React element, as you can see here.
Yeah.
So all of, sorry, my bad. You know what happens on streams. So anyways, so all these things I didn't like, and I started building my own library for it,
So
and it's called Fleece. That's what we're getting started with today. Already added it to the template because, yeah, why not? See how it goes. I'm not saying you should always use one or the other. I think this is better. That's my personal opinion. But if you already happy with the first one, just keep working on that, and everything should be fine.
Cool.
This is more of another option if you are Team Felice.
So let's have a look here. So this looks good. Everything is installed.
All right, looks like we can already run the application that is currently here.
Yeah.
You can go npm start, or should I do it?
I can go.
Okay. So npm start will run the dev server. Of course, if you hit F5 as well inside VS Code, you would have it running as well.
So we go to localhost 8080.
Yes.
And see.
It's gotten dark really fast here.
Yes, you're a bit dark.
Yeah, should I open the lights?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, 1 second. And we're back.
Yes, and this is our nice counter. Okay, so let's build something.
All right, so where are we now? Let's take a look. Okay, that's the counter. Looks very nice. Okay, we can start working with the code to build the to-do list application. And the very first thing, like we said in the last stream,
is the model.
The very first thing is the model. Well, called state in this time, but that's totally fine. All right, so to start with a to-do list application, we think about what are we going to keep track of while the application is running, right? What are the things we want to keep track of? Well, we have the to-dos themselves, because a to-do list has to have a bunch of to-dos, so we can start implementing. So we know we have a list of to-dos, right?
So to-dos is like a to-do
list, basically. And then we can define to-do before that.
So we need it. We make it a record, or?
Yeah, a record will be fine.
Cool.
So a record, first of all, we need the description of the to-do itself, right?
Which is a string.
Which is just a string.
Yeah.
We need to know whether it's finished or not. So I think finished or completed, whatever suits you.
Completed.
Completed is a Boolean flag. And before we actually move on to the other ones, we need to keep, if something happens in the application, if something happens to a specific to-do, we need to know which to-do. If some event happened, like a to-do has to be deleted, we have to know which one.
Or which one we complete. So we need an ID or something. Yeah,
we need something to identify to-dos uniquely, which is basically an ID, which will basically be an ID in this case. An ID can be an integer or a GUID. I think, yeah. I mean, GUIDs are easy to generate every time, and ID you have to get the maximum of the list every time. You know. So we start with GUID as well.
Okay, I think I have no ionite help because there is no. Let's just reload this, because sometimes this extension host was.
Yeah, maybe sometimes you have to save the file to get the extension to cache stuff. So if you look for a .ionide folder in the project repository in the files,
we have one.
yeah, there it is. It gets refreshed every time
Okay,
you
but
save.
now we have like here, we have like proper
Yeah.
arrows and everything.
Yeah,
So
cool.
so you would, yeah, so we start like this and
Yeah,
not
perfect.
wrap it in an ID or something, to do ID?
No, not needed.
Okay. I'd always
Thing.
say in bigger applications, I would always do. So what I mean is like do it like this, right? To do ID, to do ID of system, GUID, so that we are not like in danger of actually interchanging some different IDs if we have integers or GUIDs. So because it's just a GUID. So
Yeah. Yeah.
do you mind if I change it? Do you use it like
Sorry?
this? Do you mind if I do it like this?
It's perfect.
Okay, so let's just go like this. Cool.
All right. So that works nice as well. We have a to-do of a to-do ID. Can you tell us why you do it this way exactly? What do you mean by interchanging different
Because otherwise the type system won't help us if let's say we have some function that takes a to do and the user, the ID of a to do and the ID of a user. There is nothing that keeps us from switching both. So if it has like if the type is something like type blah is like GUID system dot GUID system dot GUID, and then it returns an int, whatever.
Yeah.
Nothing is actually keeping us from switching the user with the to-do or the other way around. And this leads to very nasty errors, I think. And so if we have it like this, we can just say here, okay, here I need a to-do ID. And here I definitely need a user ID.
User ID, indeed, yeah.
Yeah. And then we need to unpack or unwrap this, but this is pretty easy in these single case discriminated unions because we can just do it in the function parameter. So I really like doing this in this way. It's a bit more of like boilerplate, but in my opinion, especially in bigger apps, it gives you a really nice way to have it in a more type safe way, to write your applications in a more type safe way.
Yeah, I think and they make the code a little bit more readable.
Yes.
So when you look at the function, you see a to-do ID and then the parameter inside already unwrapped. You could use it right away, but when you read the function, you say, okay, update address for some user. Then you have the user ID and the address ID, and you know which one these are, and you cannot use the ID in one of the other places.
Yeah, definitely.
I haven't had like serious bugs with it really, but I think it makes it nicer.
Definitely.
And
especially I think we'll come to this later. If you have like a real life production app where we have a couple of and you need to onboard some new person onto this application, that it's much nicer if you go for this readability thing.
Yeah, so, just read the types. You already know what it's doing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So then, do we need anything else?
Of course, because we have a bunch of to-dos. We need also the ability to write the new to-dos in some text box and add that text to the to-dos. But we first have to keep track of that text itself. So we could add another field called new to-do, which is a string, I guess. Yeah, because we're keeping track of the text we will be inserting in the text box. So we now have a to-do, a new to-do. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, for the beginning, it should be enough, right?
Yeah, it should be enough. So that's it for the model. We need to keep track of a bunch of to-dos where each to-do is completed or not, has some description, and we need to keep track of the text so we know, so that we know how to add a new one. All right. And now I think we can move on to messages, right? So messages are these things that happen while the application is running.
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen in the to-do app, basically. So that's what we think about at the very first. Okay, what are all my use cases while developing this application? The very first thing, as we saw in the GIF, can you bring it up?
The GIF? I closed it.
If you still have it.
No.
It's there. Okay, I think it's nicer to start with what you need. So
let me just switch this over here because I killed pretty much everything.
All right. So
sorry.
That's okay.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see, it's nice to see what we have to build before we do. So and a bunch of things are happening in this to-do app. One of the things is someone is typing in there. That's an event, because when you type here, something changes, right? When you click on the plus button, something changes. When you click on these checks and times icons, something changes. Across, and that's basically these are basically the events. So we have the event where someone is typing in the text box. We can start with that. Usually when we are building forms, there's this, I don't know, so this implicit convention that everyone seems to be happy with, is when you have some field called new to do, then the event that changes it will be called set new to do of that new string.
Okay, so let's just do this.
Yeah, some other people call it new to do changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these events are usually defined.
I prefer
in the past.
this event style syntax, like past tense.
I think past tense makes sense, but again, this one also makes it simple to think about it. I want to set the value of the new to do. Well, I guess it's more imperative, like it sounds more imperative.
So let's go the declarative way.
The declarative, yeah.
New to do change.
New to do change. It's an event that happened, and we need to change the state based on that. All right. So a new to do change, and we need to know which is the current text of the to do that has changed. I mean the input box, basically. Another event is a to do is the plus button is clicked. Let's call that add to do.
So to do edit, new to do edit. If we go
to do added.
Is this right for you?
This is okay. So this is a past tense, but it actually get added after this event is occurred. So it's more of a command in event sourcing syntax.
We went with this convention sometimes that we say like a new, but this gets a bit strange sometimes. But like new to do like something like this.
Adding requested.
But yeah, it's strange. So let's say add new to do.
Add new to do, yeah. So this one doesn't need any information because the information we're already keeping track of.
It's in here. It's in the new to do one actually.
Yeah, we're keeping track of the information there. So this one doesn't need any parameters.
Should we start from there? So we could do other stuff, or should we just pull all the messages in there? I mean, we could build an application with this, right?
Yeah. I think we can move on, and we can add messages as we see fit, right?
Definitely.
So
then here we need a new
the initial state.
So it's like the to-dos is a list, and the new to-do is just an empty, right?
Yeah, I think the initial state is one of these nice things that gives you the feedback whether your model is correct, right? So when you start working on the app, you define your types, but at the moment you get to the init function, you have to start with the empty state for every field you have in the state, right? And sometimes you didn't account for something that wasn't available at the beginning, so you go back and change the model so that you start with the empty state of every field.
Yeah.
A list will be empty, and a string will be empty.
Yeah.
Some optional thing will be none, etc., etc. I find it sometimes weird when I have a option of a result. Do you have that as well?
Yeah, sometimes, but yeah.
Sometimes gets
Yeah.
a bit interwoven
definitely.
based on the requirements. All right.
Okay, so let's build the update then, right?
Update, yeah.
So what?
There's also another thing here that I think a lot of that actually no one talks about when you build an Elmish application. No one starts with the render before the update. I think I think I like this style because it enforces that the render is not dependent on the update,
Yes.
right? So you could start with the render and implement the update later afterwards. Even when you have multiple files implementing these things,
Yeah.
I usually go types, then the view, then the update.
Okay.
So that's
So let's just, yeah, I mean, it's model view update. So, and
yeah.
I'm not sure about Elm, where they put this. Maybe they do it like this, that they start with the view, but I'm not sure. So let's go for the render then, yeah?
All right, we can go with the render. Do you want to do this or should I take over?
I don't care. Just take over and yeah.
All right. If it doesn't work, then I will let you do the rest. All right. So first of all, I will take this bunch away. All right. Okay. It's okay. The app will start with the div. That's the container of the whole application. I want to add a little bit of padding to it, right? So I will add a padding of 20. That's where I start. And then I go, children will be here. All right, so my children will be like, if you've seen the GIF, I will have the title, I will have an input field, I will have my to-do list.
Yes.
So I could go title, I could go, let's call it new to-do input. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's all right.
New to do, the title doesn't need any parameters. Basically, it's just a static value. But the new to do input has to have access to the state because it has to know what is the current value of my new to do, this one. So it has to have access to that, and it also needs to trigger events. So
it needs the dispatcher.
It needs the dispatcher as well. So we give it the state and we give it the dispatch. And now you should tell me actually that it doesn't need the whole state, right?
Yes, definitely. That's what I wanted to do. So only keep put the information in there that we actually need. Don't put the whole state in there.
Your mind definitely there.
Yeah.
So so when we basically I'm starting with the bigger with the main container and building up the smaller pieces as I go. And these smaller pieces can be built up using the same signature you're using for the render function itself. So every time you break it in a smaller part, you just give it that part of the state it needs and the dispatcher so that it can dispatch events as well. So it's basically a smaller render function. And I'll just take it here.
And I think it's a good way of doing this, like only giving the information it needs, because otherwise, it doesn't convey the information that this only needs to have this one and this only should need this one. And if I have the whole state at hand, might lead me to build some strange thing because I have everything at hand.
Yeah, you have access to everything, and this basically limits that. So my new to do input takes a state. It just gives it the new to do. This is the only part of the information it needs, and the dispatch function because I will need to be able to dispatch stuff. All right, what I'm returning from here, and this is okay. I need to make an input. I actually wanted to, as you can see from the GIF, I'm using Bulma for the styling.
So Bulma is a CSS. Let's have a look, because as you can see, maybe some people don't know Bulma. Bulma CSS. It's a nice framework that gives us a lot of components and I haven't looked at for quite some time at the documentation. Let's check the forms and the inputs. And we see here that we have different kind of inputs, which have a primary input, an info input, a success input, or if we have some validation errors in here. And so Bulma is just giving us this. There is no JavaScript involved here. There are some companion libraries, but Bulma in general is just CSS. So we're just using this.
So you add the CSS and you start adding classes to your elements, and they look gorgeous.
All right. You're beeping.
Yeah, my phone again. I need to. Oh, it's just this the YouTube notification of the stream itself. Okay. Can we start adding a Bulma styling to the page before, because I want to start adding. Okay. I think I could start adding building the new to the input before I do. So I will cheat a little bit and look at the documentation myself, because I always forget how to do it as well. So, all right. Yeah, that's how it went. Okay. Sorry. Just cheating around. Okay. So you first start with a div, right? And this div will have some classes. So the classes function takes a list of classes and not a single one with a space in between, right? So this one is going to be field and it's going to be field, and it has add-ons. Can I go back to the Bulma docs from here?
Yeah, you need to go here too.
Okay, so basically what I want to make is, let's see if I can find it here.
So Marco, I just wanted to answer you in the chat, but then I took his mouse, so I'm just answering here. Yeah, it's a interface segregation principle from Solid, and as I said, I'm just out of words today. Definitely. So sorry for this, but yeah, you're right.
All right, so basically I want to build something like this. So I'm using field and has add-ons, as you can see from here. But I actually want to have it full width, right? So I want to have this whole thing. So I need field has add-ons. Inside of that, I need a div with control. And so basically when you say I have a field, it can have multiple controls. So this div and this div are on the same level, and they have control. One of them is expanded, so that it takes as much space it needs, and then this one, the one to the right will take
space.
as much
and the
space
other
it
one
needs,
take the rest.
And the one to the left will take everything else, which is the auto. So basically, I want to recreate that from here, and one thing I start seeing myself doing when doing Bulma is having to write a lot of these nested divs, a lot of them, and this syntax will make it just a little bit harder. I can make a helper function later, but for now I'll just do it this way. So I have a field which has add-ons. I will need 2 divs, right?
The question is in the chat, why not use Fulmar? Our idea is to try to keep I think it's 2 things, right? The first one is we want to use Feliz here. And the second, and Fulma just goes all the way with this other React style library. And the other reason is we didn't want to use so many libraries. So we just try to keep it,
as simple as possible. Basically.
And later on, we want to work with a type provider. That's true, Marco. I just spoiled this to him via WhatsApp later on, or earlier on. Yeah. So these are a couple of reasons we're not using Fulma. Fulma is great, and Maxime is great also. So.
Yeah, I've talked with Maxime as well about this. He was going to. He didn't. He's on vacation now, so it's probably not happening anytime soon. He said he will try to make a Feliz version or Feliz spin-off of Fulma, because he thinks as well that the syntax makes it simpler, and sometimes you just need a couple of classes, not having to pull in the whole library, So For now, we will be just using classes, keep things simple. It's nice that you could just go to the documentation and copy things over, right? So we have these two, we said we need a field, we need has add-ons, two divs that are both, there will be both controls, right? This one is control, and this one is expanded, and just copy paste this over, because the second one will be the button, the add button, and this one will be just the inputs. So I have my classes, could have the children, and here I will have my only input. So I go HTML input. Okay, that's my input, which is the text inbox, the text box field. I can go classes. I think I need to tell it that it's an input, so that's Bulma makes it nicer. It is medium, a little bit bigger than normal. Let me cheat again. Yeah, medium will be okay for now. So we have this thing called value or default, and this will be the initial value. How do you initialize the input if it doesn't have a Okay, so the things with inputs is that they have their own internal state, and if you don't keep track of the input in the new to do, they can keep track of their own text while as you're writing. So even if the UI re-renders, the input still has its own internal state, and because I want to force it to have a value after a re-render. I'm gonna give it the value, or I'm gonna use the value or default, which then uses the current to do I'm keeping track of.
Root of a lot of problems and a lot of bugs. This behavior,
yeah. So we use value or default to force the internal state of the input, and then when the text changes, I get a function. So the onText change is basically onChange, but nicer. So the handler already.
We know that it's a string already. Cool. So it's not an event anymore where we need to get the string out of.
No. So it's basically the onChange is the event, which has an event target, and you could get the value from it. And this basically wraps the onChange event so that you could work with the string instead.
Cool.
So we could just go actually fun text. I need to learn how to write, and then I can dispatch the new to do changed using that text.
Cool.
Right. So this is saying whenever the text changes, I want to dispatch this event when the text changes, but we can do it a lot more nicely like this.
Dispatch, yes. This is pretty cool because this was there is an S missing. This is pretty cool because this was not really easily done with the old syntax, right? Because we had the event and then we had to.
You had to write this yourself, basically.
Yeah, cool. That's nice.
Yeah, it adds a couple of Easter eggs there. So. All right, so that's what we need for the input. I don't think there's anything left. You basically tell it which value it has and what to do when it changes. So this is a lot different than if you had the so-called two-way binding with a lot of frameworks like MVVM or Angular or Vue. You don't have the input does not know what happens with the text. You have to say, well, when the text changes, do this,
and send a message to the system, and then
Exactly. So this is very different from one-way binding. So now we have the input. We told Bulma it's an actual input. Make it a little bit bigger. Now we can go and write the add button. So it's HTML bateau, almost.
It's Spanish, right?
Yeah, right. We could do as if. All right, so the button will have also a bunch of classes. one of which is, well, button. Well, I like Bulma's classes. They just make sense, right? So this one is primary.
So the question is if you're going to upload or push this to GitHub. Yeah, we can definitely do this. The final product or application. We can just push this up to GitHub. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. So this one, button, is primary, and I guess is medium as well to have the same value as the input. And prop children, it has one child, which will be an I element having classes FA and FA+.
So this is using Font Awesome, the icon library Font Awesome, and this is just the icon needs to have the class FA to know that it's a Font Awesome icon, and then FA+, it's the icon itself.
Yeah, I guess we could build a helper for this thing. If you find yourself doing a lot of these, you could basically just build your own little helpers
where
on
you just
top.
fill in the information that is interchangeable.
Yeah. As I will do soon, I think, with the div and classes, because I see I'm just using the dummy divs to add the classes to it and add the children, so we can do that. This is the thing. This library gives you just the foundation, and you could just build your own abstractions on top. So I think we have the new to-do app right there. It looks like it's okay. I can start with, I can do the title as well, and we'll do the title on top. So title will be HTML. I think a paragraph will do. Prop class name, because it only has one title, and prop text will be Elmish to do app.
Wait, I need to refactor this.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. So wait, let me.
So that's a title. It's a paragraph, and
cool.
Oh, it's working back. Okay, it's paragraph. Everything looks to compile except for this.
Oh, can I write again?
So
I'm getting tired. I need to write.
Okay.
Okay. So.
There you go. Now it compiles.
Yeah, now it compiles, and now let's save this, and we should have a look at our application, which looks like this. So I guess we need to import Bulma.
Not really import it. Just add the style sheet to the index file, basically. Just good old CDN files.
Do you have the link available? Can you copy this from somewhere, or do I need to?
I think I can. 1 second. I'm not sure how a copy works with the Steam viewer thingy.
Hopefully.
Okay. All right. So I've copied it. I can go here, and I can go paste. Oh, that actually worked. Nice. So I have Bulma 7.4. It's now 7.5, but that's okay. And then Font Awesome right there.
So if I have a look in here, oh, that's the wrong. Does it?
Yeah, the wow, that's really cool. I think you can remove the zooming. It's already good enough.
Cool.
And
so now let's actually let's build the list of the to-dos before we actually updating the update, right?
Yeah, so we can see stuff as we make the init function add
go
to
for
it.
it.
Okay.
You want to go for it?
Yeah. All right. So before I do, I will just start making a little helper function. Actually, I'll just copy one over from here.
Yeah.
See, I'm getting lazy here.
That's good though.
But that's fine. People don't have to see me painfully type as I go. All right, so I have a helper function here. It's a div, takes a bunch of classes and takes the children directly, which basically just the old syntax now, but I think it's okay if I do this for divs only, because I'm going to use the classes a lot. All right, so I have the div there. I could start making my to-do list. And here I'm gonna say to-do list. It takes the state, well, not the whole state, it only needs the to-dos, and it needs to dispatch stuff.
No, at the moment not, right? At the moment we don't need it. We have no functionality in there. So we only need this.
We could just render some to-dos. To-do list, it takes a to-dos, which is a to-do list. Right, and now I want to build how the to-do list looks like. It will be a list, so I think I'll go with UL, an unordered list, and then in the children right away I can go for to-do inside to-dos, render to-do. How does that look like? Yeah, so this is the container. It just takes this one to render a to-do. I don't have that yet, so I'll write it here. So render to-do takes one of these items, right? Okay, now I could start actually writing how the UI looks like for only
one to-do.
It's still not compiling. It's not happy with. It is defined. Okay.
Yeah, it's just because you didn't finish the function.
Okay, expecting too much from Unite here. Yeah. Okay. So to render the to-do, I will start with a div. I'll call it a box to make a little nice box shadow, and the div will have two columns. Again, back to the thingy. Okay, one thing, I don't know this by head. I actually learned how I do this before the stream, just saying. Oh no, actually I know everything about CSS and styling. That's why I know. Actually, it's just two columns, where the first column
is the content,
where the second column basically, the second column with the buttons will take only the space they need.
And the rest again will take this up, okay.
Yeah. So to do that, we need to go back to the code, have two columns. That's one column, and that's two columns. So this one will be, oh, actually I need a container for that, saying I have columns, right? A lot of these wouldn't be really helpful if I'm using the syntax above. All right, so I have column and copy paste this here. Okay, so columns will usually line themselves next to each other unless you're on mobile, in which they will stack vertically. I don't want to stack them vertically. I will just say, you know what, this is also valid to stack them horizontally while I'm on mobile, right? So one will be column, and if I let it this way, it will just have 50% of the width per column. But I will tell this one that it is narrow, which means just use the space you need, and the rest will be taken by this column. So this column will have HTML, I think just text. I'll do it in a paragraph as well, because I want to give it a class name of subtitle, which is somewhat smaller than the title we had, and the text of which will be the description of the to-do, right? And here I can have my buttons,
which we don't have at the moment. So
which we don't have. Do you want to see how this looks like before we go, or should I
just leave it
move on?
Leave it empty so that we can just have it. Yeah.
Like this? Okay.
Cool.
It looks like it's actually rendering. So we start with the root render function, which is the function that's actually given to the Elmish program. This function takes a list, takes a bunch of pieces. We're putting these together inside the children. First piece, the second piece, and then the last one is itself built on top of smaller pieces.
Cool. What is your Florian? No, Jeff just said, don't forget the ID. And now the key prop for the box. Yes.
Yeah, I haven't
Yes,
forgot yet.
we will come to this, promised. Or not promised, but we will come to this. So,
At some
at
point.
some point. So shall we build something? Like, should we make it functional? So at the moment, this is the application. It's nice, but it's not. I mean, this is the.
What do you mean make it functional? It is
Yes.
functional.
So this here is like what Zaid just said, right? It's the internal state of the it's the internal state of the input. So that something is changing because we're not changing actually anything in there.
Nope, not yet.
So but we're doing this now. So what do we have here? We have the match message with, so like the update function, if you haven't watched the last episode or if you have never actually worked with this is like where all the messages are coming into, and this is where we need to do something with the messages to change our state, to return a new state, which is then used to render a new view.
Yeah, based on the previous state, render the next state, or compute the next state for the view to render it.
So we have two messages that are possible. The first one is new to do changed, and this is text right in here. And then we
maybe you should call it new to do description.
Change new to do description change.
Okay, no, it's okay.
What do you mean that one here?
It's okay. Yeah, to do description or new to do, yeah.
And this one is like add new to do. So where do we start? We can start just here.
Yeah, this one's simple.
So we have the model, and we sorry, we have the state, and
you don't sound very happy with it.
Right. And in there, let's have a look. We have this new to do here. So we say new to do equals.
It's the description.
Cool. And then we have here, so we say add new to do. So we want to create a new that we are adding to the list. So this is what we need. We need an ID, a description, and a completed. So we return, we say let to do equals, and then we can copy paste this one in here. I always do it like this. I don't know. My colleague hates me for this, for always copy pasting this stuff. So we say
if it compiles, it's okay, right?
So too. System.guid new GUID, and don't forget the parentheses, because otherwise you get strange errors and don't understand why. Completed is actually false because we just created this new one. Hi, Kevin. And the description is then just the one that we have in the new to do, right? So this is the one that we were building. So we say state.new to do.
So we're keeping track of this information to use it when this event occurs.
So let's just new to do. Let's just rename this to new to do description, because we always say this is like this and this is like that, and then
much better.
So this is this, and then we have the model with.
You could just rename the parameters at this point.
Sorry, state with. So should we put this to do at the top? The new one, yeah, because it's much easier.
I just use append usually. This one.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I usually use the function append. So I will go to do's is
then
list.append.
Append,
and then
takes
the first list will be the one that we are just using. So append takes two lists, right?
It's the state.todos. And it's the
this one adds it to the end.
It's a new list. Yeah, doesn't really.
Yeah, so we're creating a new list based on the old list, adding a new element to it. We're not mutating anything, right?
Okay, why is this not? Because we were talking
Because
all the
of the to-do
time,
ID.
and so this is just the to-do ID.
Don't you like to use to-do ID and then the parameter inside, or just pipe the operator?
I'm not a big fan of all these parentheses, so I always, most of the time I use pipes, but it's right. I don't fight for it.
All right.
Cool. So
this won't work just yet because I don't think we had implemented the on-click event to
Yes.
dispatch the new to-do.
Now you were spoiling, because what we should do is actually say, oh, and then it's not working,
it work.
and so just rewind, and yeah, he never said anything. He needs to learn the suspense. Okay.
I'm new at this, okay? I thought I was missing something when I built. I think, okay, why does the button look so empty in there?
So where are we? We are here. This is then here, like what, prop?
Yeah, I would do the prop above and leave the children all. The children usually go down.
Okay.
So maybe below classes.
Yeah. Prop dot on click. That's small. On click, and then we get
takes a function
that takes that takes the event, right? So it takes a function. We don't need the event, so we can just send the what was it? New
new to do.
We just send this to the dispatch. Right?
All right. Now it should do something.
It should do something. Awesome. Hi, folks. Woo!
Hey. That
looks nice. And we should actually have a new feature request in here that after we have added something, I guess we should just clean the old state so that this is empty. So let's do this. Where are we?
That's happening when we are adding a new to-do.
So
debating the syntax.
Yeah, debating the syntax and something.
New lines.
Yes, definitely. I do it like this now. So what? Yeah, I say new to-do descriptions equals
goes back to empty. Nice.
Let's have a look. Hi again. And when we do this, it is working.
It's cleared.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Cleared. So what I like to do now, and what helped me or us tremendously is, for me, this it's not really working when I point my finger. So for me, this stuff here is really still not like declarative or not really readable. So you need to really understand what is happening. So if you're new to this, you have no clue. You have to see, okay, there is a new system, there is a new ID created, and all this stuff. So what I like to do is to take all this stuff out, and I really love to work with these with helper functions that are similar to this, with new to do, and it just gets the description and the model, the state. And then we do it like this, and then, we do it like this. So we have all this stuff in here, all this, we have here with the new to-dos, and I get a new mail. I should close this. All this stuff here. And that we reset the to-do description and everything. And the nice thing now is that we can have a really nice and small update function that is just the state with new to-do and
giving the description.
State, new to-do description. And I think that this is really nice because Now you have a really small and nice update function that is actually readable. And that you can actually show someone or you can show it to yourself like in 2 weeks, and you can actually understand what is happening here. And you can keep going here, with deleted to-dos.
Yeah, maybe you should have made another function to clear the description, and then have with new to do using this new description, then clear the description. I think this is really nice, and it's the same thing that we are doing with the render function. Instead of having one giant render function, we just break things apart, and it happens that the update is even simpler than doing the render. Here we are just we have the state, we just pass the state, as well as but we don't pass the message because we just pass the information we need, and in this case we need the new to do description and the state to be able to compute the next state of the application.
Definitely. And I think this is much more declaratively, because I don't care. Later on, we might have some list filter, find something, and I really don't care reading this update thing. And if we go maybe next stream or the stream afterwards, we are working with commands. We can then do something like this without commands or with HTTP request, whatever. We can go wild with this, but I think it's a really nice way writing our update functions.
Do you add them when you do update? Do you add them as module functions to state as well?
We did it sometimes.
Like to put them in a.
I have no strong opinion about this. Most of the time, we just do it within just above the update.
All right. Yeah, because the nice thing about F# programs, you could just read them from bottom to top, right? Because you just read the things that is composed at the very end, the thing that is now built up from different parts, and then you could start read the different parts as you go up. You know that you don't have to look for a function in between, basically, because of the order of things are declared.
Yeah. And that's why most of the time we just put them above the update. Yeah. Cool. So that is this. The question is, we're now 1 hour in. How far do we want to go? So what is there? So first of all, Kevin, you were asking why not using cons operator or instead of append. We were talking about this. We were discussing this. We could use the cons operator, and then it would be on the top, or we could use the add instead of append, the add sign. But we just used append here.
I like the function names. I think they're more readable for one who doesn't know all the operators. I always have to think, what does a const do? What does a const do? Does it add it to the first or the second? Okay, I don't want to second guess the things. I'll just use append.
But the cons is faster. But micro optimization. So anyway, So where do we want to go? I know you want to show the type provider. And we were talking, but there's also the chance to complete the to-dos and delete them. So where should we start?
I think if it's okay with you, we can have the option to delete them. So one button to delete them. After you add them, we can have a button to just delete.
So you go with the rendering. Let's do our order here. So we have then a delete to do. Delete to do of to do ID.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
we need to delete the to do. Well, which one? Well, the one with this ID.
And the nice thing is, for me, with these updates here, where is this? Oh, we can just use here this description. In this case we had both, but I think it's nicer here using the description. So now the message, the new message is missing. So this is then delete to do.
Do you have warning as errors always?
No, I have no clue why this is red now. So this is the to do. Yeah, and here I do the same. State without to do. And then we build this function here, and we say let without to do. So I like to have this declaratively named, not like delete to do in there, but just to read, I want to have the state without this to do. So, and then we have this to do.
Yeah, so basically you have to know you have to know what you're going to do with the state, which is filtering out one of the to-do based on the to-do ID.
List filter. And there we have a function. No, it's not state, right? It's state dot.
Nope, it's state dot to-dos.
State dot to-dos. And this is the new let to-dos. So it's state dot list filter, and it's a function that takes a
single to-do
to delete. I don't know.
Just to do ID. Takes.
You mean this one here?
No, the parameter next to state.
Yeah, thank you. To do ID. And then we say here we get the to do, and then list. It filters all those in where it's true, where the predicate is true. So it's like to do dot ID is not equal to do ID, right?
Yeah, exactly. So keep everything in that does not have this one ID.
So and then it's state with to dos equals those to dos. So and then we have already built our business logic for without to do. So it's just the delete to do. It's just the state without this to do. So you want to just go and build the UI. That's I hate this stuff. So
I guess so. So the nice thing about the update as well is that you can unit test this on separately, entirely separately, without knowing how the view function takes to render it. You could just take this in a unit test file, even not a Fable one, just a normal one, and just start writing unit tests. We should definitely do a unit testing stream later.
Put this on my to-do in here.
Put this on your to-do. All right, so I wanted to do the columns. I should start saying the word to do a lot here, because someone's definitely going to count them and say, oh, they said 2,000 times to do. All right, so I have buttons, which is a container for a bunch of buttons next to each other. Actually, I have only one, so I don't need multiple buttons. I was going to build multiples, but I think one will be enough, right? So button class name goes. Yeah, actually, I want to make a classes out of it. I think I should always start with classes, and if I want more, I will just add another one to the list. So this one is.
I really like this class name and classes differentiation, so that we have both possibilities. It's not always a list if you just need one class. Nice.
Yeah. So I have button is danger. I don't need anything. Yeah, and that's okay. When it's clicked, we're already stopping at some point. I'll get back to that. And we have children, which will be another icon taking prop dot classes, which will be times, right?
So this is another perfect candidate for like refactoring out a helper function, like an icon function or something.
Children. Yeah, you could extend the prop class to add something called icon, or you could add a helper function that gives you this whole thing.
So the prop is a class actually, right?
Yeah, it's a static class with all static members having a lot of overloads.
Cool. Really nice.
Yeah, so we have on click, and we need to dispatch. So we get a function which gives me the mouse event. I don't really need it. I just need to dispatch a delete to do, right? Delete to do, give it the ID of the one that I'm rendering. So I don't have dispatch. I will just put it up here. It knew that I have a message going to unit. That's good. And now I have to just give it here.
Don't scream.
Oh.
Yes.
So that's dispatch. Still, it doesn't know which one it is. You just pass it down basically all the way.
Yes.
All right. That looks almost right. I think we can skip the ID, the key for now. It's okay if you don't put key in small lists.
Yeah, but maybe we should just then say what the key is for.
Yeah, so the key is so that when you add a new element or when you delete an element of the list, so that React only reorders the elements instead of re-rendering each one, right? So if it knows which element, which user interface element it have, which to do, how is it rendered? It doesn't have to re-render the whole
list. So basically, if you have like a list with like 2,000 entries, and you put one to the top, the whole list is re-rendered, which then becomes pretty slow. But we are just having a small list in here, and so this key property is actually preventing this, because it knows, oh, the key was there and it's still there. So it knows I don't need to re-render this. I just need to change the list, but I don't need to re-render and destroy the whole DOM of the whole list, because this is what is slow in the end. Not the process of computing the difference, but to change the DOM.
Yeah. So we have here our to-do list, and it actually knows everything it needs to, right? So we can save and see how this looks like.
Let's have a look. We say 1. Okay, it looks good. 2, 3, 4, and then we delete.
Now if you delete them,
woo, and it is working.
We should definitely add a to-do that everyone should go to. Can I take it over? Everyone should go to FableConf. Because Oh, I don't have enter.
No, you don't. We don't have enter.
Okay. The 5th and the 2nd. And the 8th. Oh, the 6th, of course. I don't know.
It's a really nice conference. I've been there last year, had a talk there, and
it was really fun. There are a lot of smart people there.
Like me.
Really fun.
No, like definitely not. But still, no, it was great. I won't be there because of family stuff, but
I had so much fun. Like even during the conference and outside of it, because there are a lot of activities, a lot of nice stuff. This month is the last month where you could actually get tickets. So I'm going there. Hope to see you there as well. See how it goes. All right. So enough advertisement. Let's go back to the application. I think it's working. I think that's pretty much it, right?
So now we could just like complete to-dos and I mean, there are a lot of nice features or use cases we could build. We could build a filter in here where we could say just give me the deleted to-dos, or no, sorry, the completed to-dos, or give me the to-dos that are not completed. But I think if you understood how this works, it's pretty straightforward, right? You have just have a message like filter, and then you have the
event that
occurred, and maybe with the type of to-dos that you just want to see, and then you could actually filter. So then you have the state in your system, which kind of filter is active, and then you would just have it in your view function here somewhere where the to-dos are in there. You could just filter them out. you can just filter those that are fitting to the filter that is stored in your state. So you are only showing the to-dos that are completed or that are not completed, right?
Yeah. So I think, Roman, are you going to put this this repo on your?
We can put it up
on your.
The question is,
we can add it also to the description.
The question was, and yeah, we were both stumbling about over this. It's, can we add on enter?
Yeah, sure. Right like now?
Can we just do it?
Yeah, of course. I think we have to go to the input, right? That's where we have our stuff. And I haven't added any nice things to the on key press. Is it on key down or on key press? I think it's on key up.
Should be.
So on key up, and then you get a, what does it take? It takes a keyboard event. So fun event, let's see what event has. All right.
I think key code is what is it, 13 for enter?
Yeah, I'm looking for 13 as well. That's a float. Yeah, I need to change that. So when the key code, so if event key code is 13, then dispatch add new to do, right?
Changed. And you add new to do, sorry, yeah.
I'll need these parentheses. And I guess I should be consistent, right? All right, so, and now hopefully JavaScript doesn't fail me and say
it might be
13 is not actually 13.
Let's have a look. I'm typing yay, and I'm just hitting enter. Yay. You see the mouse is still not moving. It is working. So let's have a look what we have done here. So
this is nice, actually. People are sending us feature requests, and we should have like an auction. See how many people want which feature, and we should
definitely. I like this too. So on key up, it's like on text change or on click. So it's an event handler. And in there, we're checking the key code of the event. So the event, this is what JavaScript is giving us. The API for the browser is giving us. So it's the key code. So actually it's an integer. So that's a problem here, that this is a float. It's the number of the button that is pressed off the keyboard. And so enter is actually 13. And after you have done this like 20 times, you know that this is 13.
You remember which one? Yeah, one.
You remember at least 13. And it's completely random, but yeah. And then we just send this message that we were sending when we're clicking on the plus, and we just do the same. This is pretty much it. So we can send the same message, we can request the same action from our system from different parts of the application. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So the question is the DOM gonna be rendered too if another person is adding into the list? I'm not sure if I'm understanding this, but this application now is not multi-user. So we could build this like having a server that is actually connected via WebSockets and then is sending this to all the people that are connected with this.
So basically it depends, because the renderer is first in, first out. The one we're using, the options, we're using synchronous. So it will just re-render as messages come in, and I think it's using a ring buffer for the Elmish. So every time a message comes in, it computes a state, re-renders, and when it has processed the next one, then it will re-render. There is no multi-threading here. Basically, everything works because this is JavaScript. Everything runs on a single thread.
But
the
still,
main
if you
thread.
want to have like two browsers communicating with the same application, we needed a server that is connected somehow via WebSocket and is able to push some information to the client. And then we needed to create a message
or just long polling.
that is pushing this into the update function.
Yeah, I hope that was the question.
What command runs in background? I don't understand what command runs in background means.
The Webpack, right?
Maybe Webpack. Oh yeah, Webpack Dev Server. Yes.
Yeah, we have Webpack Dev Server running in the background so that it recompiles the parts we changed from the application and refreshes the browser automatically. We don't have hot module reloading in this template. That's why I'm saying this is just for learning purposes. I will make a template with the all best practices and all nice features, but it does make for a complex Webpack file. For now, if you look at the files, it's really, really simple. So it just say, where is my project? How do I compile it? Basically saying use Fable loader to compile it, and when you're done, put it in bundle.js inside the public directory, which is the one we added the font awesome and Bulma to it. When the application renders, this is the JavaScript is being loaded, and it will bootstrap the program into this div.
Yeah. Cool. So it's now almost 1.5 hours. So I'd say I like to wrap this up with this type provider thing, just to have a nice goodie in the end. What do you think?
Cool.
So I haven't touched it. You just showed it to me like 2 days ago, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
And I think I loved it too. So could you show a subscription from a timer? Yeah, definitely. We will be talking about commands and subscription and all this stuff. I definitely want to also talk about Elmish streams, which is another model for this stuff that I really love. And we will be doing this, but not in this episode, not today.
Today is just really simple stuff, really the basics of Elmish, and this is more of a how do you render a list of things and how do you dispatch events that are specific to individual items as opposed to events that change the whole state instead of just changing one single part of it. So now I wanted to show a really, really cool thing I've seen being thrown in the F# Slack and web Slack. You should definitely go there if you want to ask questions. A lot of people are hanging there, so and they publish their work. Okay, so here we have all these things as strings, right? It would be nice if someone had made a library with all these things coded in values, and it could be all type safe and stuff, which someone already did. Maxime already did it with Bulma. Really, really cool stuff. But today, I don't want to be specific to one library. Let's say today I'm using Bulma, tomorrow I'm using Bootstrap, and I'm definitely using a lot of font awesome stuff. So I want a tool that basically generates all these classes for me in a type safe manner. And for that, someone wrote a type provider that I will just install right here. So I will go cd source and .NET add package, and now I need to look up the name of the package. 1 second.
It's typed CSS or something. Type classes.
Yeah, it's let's see. There it is. Username is prefixed, so all right. I'm definitely gonna put a link to this one as well. So it has installed the type provider. There's nothing more I need to do than actually start using it. So I will go here, open the stuff, and then type CSS classes. Then I will just go type Bulma is Bulma is CSS classes coming from this part. It will hopefully not compile. Oh, it's compiling. That's a shame. I'll go to index. Basically, just copy this file over. and go back to my code. Need to remove the outline. Go back to my code, save this thing, and now in the background, the compiler is talking to this thing, the fsac service is talking to this thing, and it already loaded all the classes from this link and put them in a type safe class called
Which
Bulma,
just still it's still complete magic to me. So seeing this at this, and it's working with Fable now, and there is another type provider, but this one gives you a nicer API, I think, because.
So Bulma, you could see all these classes just right there, and you could use them. They compile down to strings. They don't add anything to the bundle size. When this is compiled, this is just the strings. And of course, you see there, for example, all small, they use dashes. So they're compiled using backticks. But if you don't like this...
Yeah, go. That was a bit fast, maybe. Go a bit... Let's just... This was a bit fast. Maybe just... where is the... So in here, so having dashes in there is not allowed in F#, in general. So we need to use this backticks syntax, which is all right, but a lot of people don't like this.
Okay, yeah.
And
I don't like it.
And so this is not a string, right? This is a type that was generated by the type provider. So this.
Yeah, this is a static property. It's of type string.
But this is not a string, so these are small. That's what I'm saying. This one here, this is not a string like this string here. When we write this in our code, this is a property of this Bulma type class thing.
Yeah, it's a static property of type string, and it has actual code that runs in the background when you compile. Not in the background, that actually runs in when you compile it. But because this is really a simple type provider, the only code it returns is basically just returns a string of that class. So I'm just going to add a little icing on the cake, which is changing the naming to Pascal case. Yeah, so that compiles, and now I should see a compile error down there. It just reloaded the types from the provider again and changed the way they are generated. So now the classes look more of like this.
Woo!
And they're exactly the same, right? So I could use field, and this one goes Bulma.
No, you're caps lock.
I'm very bad with this. Bulma has add-ons. See, it compiled the classes really, really nicely, and you could do this. You could do this not just for Bulma. You could just
for any CSS that you want, and
yeah, a lot of them are tested. There may be some edge cases that won't really run nicely, but for now I've tested Bulma, CSS, materialized, all these things. They all work pretty nicely. So index, I can just copy this over. Even if you are pulling the Bulma files and making some customizations in it and compiling it using Sass or less, just using your own bundler, basically, it will work because it's basically just using the classes themselves. They're not, the type provider is not doing anything to load the CSS inside your program. So if you didn't include the
it would compile, but it would still look ugly, right?
It would compile, but it just compiles to strings, so it doesn't add anything. So this one adds font awesome, and actually I will add the naming of Pascal as well.
There's also another naming, right? There's
Pascal case, camel case, and verbatim, which is the default one we saw at the beginning. So now I like it. I don't even have to save for it to recompile these things. So I just go FA and then, FA, and the other one will be FA dot FA
and
plus.
This is just for discoverability for an API. For CSS APIs, which are really not discoverable most of the time at all.
No, you have to look at the documentation.
All the time, like in Font Awesome and all this. This is just, for me, this is just plain awesome. And this is just one of the perfect examples for using type providers that actually make sense.
Yeah, they're really simple. They don't add anything to the compilation. They just make you happier, basically.
And at work, we are switching more and more to Tailwind CSS, which is a
Uh-huh.
utility, CSS utility framework. And this framework, it basically generates a lot of small utility classes for you. Also with things like hover or with media queries, all kind of very small CSS classes with just one property. It's a really great framework. It needs a different way of working with this. I'm not really used to it yet because I'm still not in the front end stuff. But my colleagues are
Yeah, you
going
still have to
much,
learn the
yeah,
classes, right? You still have to know what
yeah,
they do.
definitely. And
But this
but
one,
this one helps you so much because it
you
gives you all
don't need to
everything that is
remember
there,
it.
you know? It's not like, oh, there is a Tailwind CSS WebStorm, Rider, whatever VS Code plugin. No, you just use the type provider in whatever editor that is actually,
Yeah, so if you don't know what type providers are, they're not IDE
yeah,
specific. They are made to they communicate with the compiler
yeah,
itself. It's just a parameterized. It's basically, instead of having some tool to generate these classes
yeah,
for you, someone has to write this type provider, and it loads all the classes
yeah,
inside. So this one example of type provider that generates CSS classes, but there are a lot of type providers, ones that talk to databases, that generate the schema of the
yeah,
database right away. Which one is really cool? A GraphQL client, which lets you write your query in this fashion inside the parameter of the type provider, and you can dot through all the things you can get back
yes.
from your GraphQL endpoint. Really, really cool stuff. I have to also mention there's another CSS type
Which was the
provider
first one, right?
in for Fable, which is the first one. That one is more full-fledged, as in it parses the whole style sheet, and it parses all the class rules and things, but it makes it verbose when you actually have to use them. So you have to, if you used Bulma with it, and I actually added a feature last week where it loads the CSS from an external source, just like this one, to basically compare the two. And I found that the other one is a little bit more verbose. It's really cool, but a little bit more verbose, where you had to go Bulma dot, okay, which type of element I'm using. It can be any element, and then you could go add um, more classes to it. So I think this one actually hits a really nice balance. You don't have to configure it. You just copy paste whatever style sheet you were using in your public, or even if you're not using it in the index HTML, and just use it right
Yeah.
away. It's really simple.
What Kevin was saying is here. What is also really great is the fact that if the CSS link is not reachable anymore, the code won't compile. Yes, you're right. That's true. That's also really nice. But you could also like put this locally so that you always have your CSS.
Yeah, this is a problem with CSS type providers. I mean, a lot of type providers also always demo the database with a local connection string. That just blows my mind. That's not how you should use it, right? You should somehow
have some schema
serialize
or
your
something.
schema.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but
All right. Cool. If only writing them wouldn't be such a pain. Yes, you're right. But we can just use the work others were doing, so that's great then.
Yeah, I think we should be happy about the state. If a lot of people complain about the web, I think it's a great place, right?
No, I think he
because
meant
it's
the
a
type
big
providers, right?
place. Oh
They're
yeah, of
writing the
course.
type providers. So, yeah. Cool. So let's wrap this up here. We are more than 90 minutes now. It's the longest one, but I think it might be the nicest one yet. So I think we really got something.
Yeah, this is very concrete, very hands-on. A lot of interaction this time.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Nice.
And for example, who is here? Marco Boos. He was the first one commenting and one of the last ones. So I guess he was there all the time. So
man,
wait, you get my magic wand here, and yay. And awesome. So
thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Frank. We will keep doing this. We have a lot of ideas, and doing this together it's much easier than doing this alone. So we
will just see how it goes. Maybe keep going with it to do.
And I think it will be time for commands, subscriptions, WebSockets, whatever. We can blow this up however we like.
Yeah.
So yeah. Nothing else to say from me.
Thank you all for joining us.
It will help us.
I really like to hear what you think for the next
definitely.
time.
It would help us if you give us some
better.
feedback, and it would also help us if you just spread the word and tweet about it or share it somewhere. So let's wrap this up. Paw Patrol.
Yeah, if you have questions, let us know. Also contact us via Twitter, or just go on, just follow us on GitHub and open issues anywhere. We're very responsive to that. So hope to see you sometime soon.
In
maybe
2
at
weeks,
FableConf.
we are online again. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.